I'm not trying to make fun of you, Scott. I have not contacted any coaches. I don't play that game, but obviously it's my job to be aware of the landscape, to over time be watching coaches, to watch and know kind of personalities of various coaches around the country. So as I mentioned earlier, the search begins today, and there are coaches who I've watched over the years. There are coaches who I'm aware of that will be considered as part of my process. But it in earnest begins today.
Will you be reaching out to any of the coaches that were involved in the last search?
That's a good question. Possibly, although I ended up getting the coach of the group we interviewed last time. I ended up getting the coach I felt was the best fit. So I certainly don't want to set my sights any lower. And so I don't know yet. I've done searches long enough to know that it could go any number of directions. I do have some thoughts and ideas, but it'll play out over the next several weeks.
How would you?
What about agents? You contact the agents first and second?
It depends on the candidate. How that works. Some candidates you can contact directly. Some ask you to contact their agent first, and it's all part of the process that really has become much more complicated, Bob, than when I first got into this business. It was a very simple process. You picked up the phone, you called the AD, you said, "I'd like to talk to your coach." You called the coach, and you talked to him, and you decided whether or not it was a fit. It's become more complex than that, but it is what it is, and I'm understanding enough of the process to know how it works, and it'll just sort of depend on the candidate.
How would you characterize your relationship with Coach Lickliter over the course of his 3 years? Did that factor into your decision?
I think Todd and I have a terrific relationship. We meet. My choice is to over-communicate. We meet whenever it's necessary, but we also meet. I meet with Todd, with Kirk, and with Lisa weekly during their seasons, and generally every other week during the off season. And so, that way we always know where each other stands on any particular issue. We try to solve issues as they come up, that type of thing. So that's how I would characterize it.
Speaking of Kirk, he was a proponent of Coach Lickliter. Took some time to talk about. I know Tom Brand was. Have you talked to them about this decision?
No, I haven't had a chance to do that. But I think, I can't speak for those two coaches, but I think they believe the same thing that I believe. And that Todd is a good coach, and he has all the values that they share, and that I share, and that I would share. So, again, I can't speak for them, but I know that in part that's what they were saying, is that they supported all that he stood for.
How about 2 more questions?
Gary, do you think, or in the past, in your knowledge of the Big Ten, has the Big Ten had anything to say about coach selection?
I'm certainly smart enough to call the commissioner, who happens to be someone who follows the sport of basketball, played it himself. I don't know how, he tells me he was pretty good. I don't know if that's true or not. But all kidding aside, Jim Delaney is very knowledgeable about the sport of basketball. He doesn't have any say in who we hire, but I definitely will include him and many others. I don't mean to single him out, but many others as I go through this process. Not because he's our conference commissioner, but because he's somebody very knowledgeable about basketball, and I value that knowledge.
Last question.
Do you expect that, as far as the search committee goes, are you going to be forming that in the coming days? Will it be a wide range?
Yeah, the university process is such that we'll have a search committee. We had one last time. It has not yet been formulated, and I'll be doing that. Today was step 1. Today was my final meeting with Todd, and meeting with all of you, and beginning to contact the student athletes and getting that process underway. And tomorrow will be step 2, and it'll include things like beginning to formulate the search process. Was there one more back there?
You talked about the day-to-day operations of the program, technically who's in charge. The players will be allowed to practice when they do get back from spring break.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things, yeah, absolutely. One of the things I want to do as much as possible, there's no such thing as saying to a student athlete that there's normalcy when we're changing their leader, and I understand that. But as much as possible beyond that, I want to communicate with them, tell them where we're at in the process, make sure if they have questions, they know they can come to me to ask them, and make sure that they continue to carry out their workouts and their study tables, make sure they're seeing Fred's staff and staying current in school, and just trying to do as much normalcy as possible during this period.
Thank you all.